I'm John Batchelor, Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, major American Jewish organizations. I go immediately to the news from Israel. IAF strikes 5 sites, Gaza Strip, after rocket attacks. Iron Dome was in action. That's the interception of outbound Hamas-fired rockets. 5 members Hamas killed so far in a tunnel blast in Gaza. Malcolm, the Hamas is identified as the source of the abduction of the 3 Israeli teenagers. Right. Now Hamas is firing rockets routinely. This has happened several times in these last days against Israel. Puzzle with me, Malcolm. This is the same Hamas that the PA wed a couple of weeks ago to much ballyhoo, right? And the same Hamas PA marriage blessed by the State Department in an odd fashion by saying, we see no reason to break off negotiations because of this. Congress is suspect. Wait, we'll see what their actions are. You know, we'll look at their, not their intentions, but their actions. We got actions, right, Malcolm. So, am I behind the times, Malcolm? Did something happen at the State Department already that we identified Hamas as a terrorist organization that's abducting children and firing rockets into Israel as a provocation? Is that the same Hamas we're talking about?
It is the same Hamas, and as you said, the United States does acknowledge that they are a terrorist, have designated them a terrorist organization. They've reiterated that repeatedly, but at the same time, we closed our eyes to this fictitious marriage, as you put it, and the creation of a technocrat government in order to facilitate the continuation of aid. And I think we have to look at what has really been happening, because the outcome is very different, I think, than what Hamas intended with this abduction. And it was clear now, it has become clear, that high-level Hamas officials authorized this, approved the abduction. They say that they wanted to trade, again, like they did with Shalit. But this was the 65th attempt since the beginning of 2013. And so this is not a haphazard act. This was one that succeeded because they took these 3 innocent teenagers and took them, and God willing, they were alive, and we will get them back and see them with their families. Gaza is bracing for what they know is coming, and what we saw today was a response. Israel has not taken aggressive action, only responded to the continuation of rocket fire against them. But you see the Palestinian social media whipping them up. We see Hamas's support for the abduction. Now Islamic Jihad, new groups formed with Iranian support in Gaza. Hamas thought that this would mobilize the street, the Palestinian street, and it did. It energized them. They were giving out candy the first night. Now they're beginning to see that the reverse is happening. Number one, the Israelis have really I think, deconstructed their structure in the West Bank with the arrest of almost 200 people. They seized hundreds of weapons, and the statements that we saw initially, which were great bravado, time for jihad, all that, is being reduced. So we are seeing the deconstruction of what the Hamas had intended with this. It could be, and I think Abbas is applauding this. That's why he's coming out so strongly and saying he'll break the agreement, etc., because this is saving Fatah. This is saving Abbas's skin in certain parts of his anatomy, because they were losing. Hamas was taking it over. They were able to operate freely. They cannot today.
The puzzle, Malcolm, the peace negotiations that the Secretary of State spent the first half of this year, I mean, he's been focused on it completely. That looks to be ancient history now. Has that been acknowledged, and is the United States ready to deal with the facts on the ground that Hamas is a terrorist organization, meaning to provoke a war or conflict in the region, and that it welcomes chaos, and that it's not to be separated from the chaos in Syria, the chaos in Iraq, the chaos throughout the region? This is one big part of it. The only stability I see is in Cairo and Jerusalem.
Just think, if Hamas had succeeded in taking over the West Bank and links up with ISIS, which is a sister group with whom they hold much in common.
They're on the Golan Heights.
But who's the sacrifice? Who's the first sacrificial lamb? Jordan. Gone. Finished. We'll have no chance between Hamas and the West Bank activating the Palestinians' 70% population, 1.5 million Syrian refugees, the ISIS on the other side. Jordan goes. It destabilizes the whole region. You expand the Iranian crescent, the Shiite crescent, and the Sunni radical front. So the talk will be, and I'm anticipating that if Abbas breaks the agreement with Fatah, which he wants to do, and for his own purposes, not for Israel, we will see again the pressure to say, you see, the two of you have so much in common, you got to get back together, rather than saying, you better see to it, Abbas, that you crack down on Hamas, that there's no more excuses. I fear that we will see the reverse, the kind of inverted logic that we've seen too often.
Congress, is it ready to move on?
Congress, absolutely hot to trot, ready to move, and they're still in session tonight, but I can tell you I've met quite a few members over the last 4 or 5 days in different functions, and all of them are very frustrated, very angry.
Will they cut off PA?
Today, if it came to a vote, they wouldn't get a nickel.
Okay. Well, stay with that, all right? Because we cannot say the PA good guys, Hamas bad guys. This is all mixed up.
Right. But they're saying, they have the guys of the technocrat government, but they can't even maintain the fiction anymore. Hamas made a pledge when they came into this unity government that they would end terrorism and violence. There's no way today that they can carry on that charade. The world sees it. Look, and what's really interesting is they're kidnapping Israeli children and youth, tried 65 times. In the meantime, Israel treated Hania's mother-in-law last week, Hania's granddaughter, the head of Hamas, last year, and Abbas's wife was in a Tel Aviv hospital being treated just last week. And the contrast, if people don't get it, if the Europeans who issued a statement that was so disgraceful, so one-sided, so obtuse to the reality on the ground, and frankly, we who experienced 9/11 and have seen the price of terrorism here at home and abroad, if we don't get it, that this is a battle for the future, we're seeing a shift in the Middle East that will carry on for generations. Whole population shifts are taking place. You see Assad throwing out populations he doesn't want. He's not letting anybody back. He's issuing new identity cards. Those other refugees never coming back.
Malcolm, the United States' part in this is that it encouraged the idea of a peace pact with people who were not sincere. Is that acknowledged by the administration?
I don't think they would acknowledge that. I think they say that, look, Abbas is, he's always better than the alternative, and you see that he might stand up against Hamas now, finally, although obviously he didn't do it in the beginning. So I don't anticipate that you're going to get any declarations to that effect.
We have a quote from Mahmoud Abbas, the once upon a time elected president of the PA. We hope missing Israel teens will be found alive. Right. He's a cynical man, Malcolm.
But he did say in front of the Arab League that these are human beings, they're like us, and we have a vested interest in cooperating with Israel because it's in his interest, it's in the Palestinians' interest.
Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, Major American Jewish Organizations. I'm John Batchelor.